And we're speaking with.
Len Pettigrew, two feathers, and I'm born into a Cherokee family by way of Lakotas, Nez Perce, and a bunch of other people south of the border.
And where are you located these days?
San Francisco, Marin.
And we heard at lunch you were playing a little bit of music. You want to share some with us now, do you think?
Well, sure.
While we're waiting for, we're going to be having a presentation on diabetes here in just a few minutes. Right now, everyone's having a bathroom break and wandering around and checking things out.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to back this up just a little bit. Maybe you could explain a little bit about the instrument that you're playing.
This is a, it's called it's a dual-chambered flute. It is called originally the wedding flute because the wedding is the most sacred event on the native calendar when people come together and dedicate their lives. And so it's called the wedding flute, which is played primarily for weddings. And it's a dual-chambered flute. Most of them are very expensive and very ornate. This is the most basic that you will ever see. It looks like a 2x4. It looks like a 2x4. And as I said, it has two chambers. One is the drone and one is the fluctuating chamber. And I just couldn't wait to get it and play it, so I didn't fix it up. They're very expensive, they're very ornate, but this is the simplest that you will ever see.
Well, and it has just outrageously wonderful sound.
Yes.
And the dual chamber component to hear, the overtones as well as the melody that goes on simultaneously. How long did it take you to learn how to play that?
Well, I've been dragging this thing around for years and years and years. I'd say I'm still working on it.
A work in progress.
And I've been I was captivated from the first that I heard it, and it took me a long time to find it. And, just loved it.
So what's going on in your world these days in terms of indigenous issues and actions, responses to the current political crisis that we're in?
Well, we've got our marching orders. There's a tremendous amount of work to be done. And we have to get about doing the work that has to be done. This is the great advantage of being here, is that we get a better picture of what has to be done and how we can do it. There's a lot of work to do, but as they say, we're still in force.
It seems to me that that part of the idea is that with looking at the tribal cosmology versus sort of the democratic process where we have mob rule, and at this point it seems that we have more corporate rule than we do tribal consciousness, and the differentiating those two kind of concepts.
Amen. Amen, brother. That is the summation in a nutshell. Thank you very much. You're absolutely right.
And so, yeah. So what's your where are you going? What do you think in terms of specifics? You know, you say there's a lot of work to do. Is there anything specific that you're chiming in to participate? Is there a plan that you see?
A specific plan. The list is so long that it's first of all, I have to sum up what has to be done, and break it down into manageable pieces, and then see where I fit. Because I've been around for some time, we've got some resources and people that we can call on, and I think what's going on right now is to get a better idea of where we're going to be most effective, and so it's a matter of listening and finding out where we should go with our forces and our efforts, and who we should align with and how we should align with them. There's so much to be done, and I think one of the biggest things is that we have to keep the hope alive, as my friend Jesse would say. We have to keep hope alive, because if we don't, we will not do anything. So that doesn't really answer your question, but there is so much to be done that it's hard to be specific right now about where we're going to start.
Well, it looks like one of the things that's going to get done is that we're going to go back to the presentations, and it looks like I think we're going to focus on diet.
Govinda, thank you very much. I'm so glad to be sitting beside you. It makes me want to shout.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your contribution to the overtones of the melodic energy. All right. This is EarthCycles.net live in San Francisco with the AIM West gathering. There will be a lunch presented on Wednesday, and on Thursday there will be the sunrise ceremony at Alcatraz, and the conversation's going to keep on going. So we're going to go back up to the main stage.
Chance to talk to Govinda. That hasn't happened every time.
All right, thank you so much, bro. Appreciate that. All right, it looks like we must be having another video.
That's in our culture. That's my tradition. I still do it. I still go out there and I still dare. A long time ago, our warriors did their exercises by dancing, riding their horses, foot races, all different forms of exercise. Everything came from Mother Earth. And there was no such a thing as a disease here like diabetes. We're trying to incorporate an exercise program that will evolve our culture and our traditions.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tony Yancey from the UCLA School of Public Health. Welcome to Instant Recess. Now, for about the past decade, we've been doing these short exercise breaks and bringing them to people's workplaces and schools and churches, basically wherever people gather. We're really grateful to have been able to team up with folks from Montana State University and right here at the Fort Peck Reservation to bring American Indian dance traditions to Instant Recess. I'm Jamie. I'm with Adrian, and we're going to go through this. You guys ready? Okay. Let's go ahead and start with getting these feet moving. Let's go ahead and take a little two-step, real slow. Together. Together. Let's do it. Let's do it. Find the rhythm. Very important to do. Make sure you find the rhythm. Now that everyone seems to have this okay, we're going to speed it up a little bit. Left, right. Good. We're going to hold on to this movement. It's going to be one of our transitional moves. Good. Now when you get this going, I want you to go ahead and twist a little bit with the body. We're just going to warm everything up. Very important to do before you start any type of exercise. Get everything nice and loose. Good. Keep going.
My grandfather, when he raised us, he used to tell us, you got to keep moving, exercise your muscles. So we was constantly moving all the time.
All right, now we're going to transition into what I call the bounce. You're going to go ahead and drop down, up, nice and slow. You don't want to go down too far. You don't want to put any pressure on your knees. This is just kind of wake things up. You want to make sure you listen to the drums. Now we're going to speed it up, down. Give me a little shoulder shrug. All right. Keep this up in the lower body. Roll that arm. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Other side. 1, 2, 1, 2. Good. 1, 2, 1, 2. Alternate. One more on each side. All right. Let's go ahead and get started with our first movement. Let's get our two-step. We're going to be doing the chicken dance. Now that we got our nice little two-step, I want you to bend from the hips and the waist. Get that backside down. You want to make sure the knee stays behind the toe, so you don't want to put any undue pressure on your knee. Arms going to go out to your waist. Very good. Now, when you take that step towards the other foot, you're going to push that chest out. Flap those wings.
To be a warrior is to be physically fit. The warriors had no fear because they kept themselves in tune.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, all the way up. Keep your two-step. Next one. It's called the Shawl Dance. We're going to slow it down so we get the movement right. Left, right, just like before. Now I want you to imagine that you get a nice piece of fabric, a nice shawl in your hand. You're going to sweep it down, then sweep it the other way. Sweep, sweep. Good. Sweep, sweep.
You go to the dances, and if you get in contests and things like that, you have to be able to last through those songs, and it takes a lot of physical fitness, to stay in there.
All right, now we're going to speed it up. One, two, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Find the rhythm. Couple more on each side. All right, let's get up on those feet. Quick march. This next one, we're going around the world. You have right arm out in front. You're going to start on your left. You're going to sweep all the way over to the right and bring it all the way back. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Other side.
When I was in high school, I played a lot of basketball ever since I was in second, third grade.
Basketball in the Indian country is the #1 sport.
You had to be in shape. You had to be able to run.
Last one right here. All right, back on the feet. This next one, we're going to transition into our bounce. Bounce it out. This next one, we're going to give a little bow and arrow action. We're going to go ahead and slow this one down so we get the movement. We're going to start with a knee raise here. We're going to go ahead and drop our bounce. Slow it down, up, down. Good. Everybody got that? Get that knee up as high as you can. Okay, that's lower body. Now with upper body, arms come out and then push in. Just like that. Good. Nice. Keep going. And now we're going to speed it up a little bit. There you go. If you find that you can't get that knee up too high, you can keep it low. That's fine. But if you got it, go for it. Other side. Knee up. Yeah, good recovery. Arms. Here we go. Let's speed it up.
Everything that I know now that helped me in my adult life, my grandparents taught me. We have a rich heritage.
5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. Let's get those feet moving. All right, this next one, we're going to start off with our transition step, a side step. Out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in. Now what I want you to do is go out. You're going to cross out in front. Out, in, out, in, out, in. Now with arm movements, you're going to shoot out, then pull in. Out, in, there you go. Out, in. A couple more. In, out, in. Other side, here we go. Out, in, out, in. Out, in, out, in. Out, crossover, out, crossover. Out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in. Other side, out, in, good. With the arms. Find that rhythm. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Other side. Here we go. Out, in, out, in, out, in, with the arms. Out, in. Good. Keep it up. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Give yourselves a round of applause. Now with every lift off before we end, we have a cool down, okay? All right, feet together. Hands up to come up to the sky. Big breath in. And down. Again. Up. And down. Okay, widen your stance. Hands up. Drop your right arm to your waist. Bring it right on over. Get everything nice and stretched. All the way up. Other side. All right. And that is our liftoff. Round of applause.
I'm just so proud of my heritage, tradition.
incorporate these things every day, because the way that we live every day isn't the same way. It required dexterity to be a warrior. It required dexterity to hunt. It required dexterity to gather. It required dexterity to clean and to treat the hides that we did as women. So we have to incorporate those things into our lives again. And how many people love to listen to Powell on a regular basis? Round dance. And if you're anything like me, you want to get up and dance when you hear those things. Put a Powell song on, put a round dance song on when you're home every day cleaning, or when you're in your office. Get up and move for a few minutes a day. Incorporate those things back into your life, because they've been the way that our lives have changed because of colonization and because of the new ways that we've learned over these centuries and over these decades. We have to do that. We have to be more aware of those things. So what we actually came to talk about was obesity and diabetes. And I'll just let Phyllis start by introducing herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Phyllis Wakazu. I represent 3 tribes, the Dene, Lakota, and Odawa. I am currently employed with the Native American Health Center, where diabetes, we have different programs put into place. And when I was asked to do, help with this event and everything, it reminded me of, diabetes and my grandma and how, she had the disease and everything. And I did some research and reading, and, I found out that fry bread was just a way for us that we found to survive. And it makes me think about back home, like when my grandmas and my grandpas were all there, we had the cornfield, and it was like a whole year thing that we looked at our food and the growing of the food and everything. We took it really seriously. Like every year, every day we woke up, and it was, we're gonna go check on the crops, and it was like in our mind every day, food, being respectful to food, putting it in our bodies. And also, I feel that, my Navajo elders say, when we eat other people's food, we begin to think and become like them. Eat more and we will forget how to be Navajo. So I kind of want to put that out there, and it made me really think about it in raising my daughter and the way we eat. And I spend every day trying to, tell her about all these things, and she's beginning to learn. And at my current job, we have different anti-diabetes things that we do, like a tribal athletics program, basketball, powwow dancing. I've tell the kids all the time that, you don't have to have your whole regalia to be dancing or whatever. Just, feeling the drum and getting up and getting our moving and stuff, all of that is a healing within itself. So we're going to actually show a video that, you want to do a little intro on the video?
So I'm Shirley Begay. I'm Navajo, Wallapai, and San Carlos Apache. I also work for the health center. Currently, I work as an outreach worker, and I've worked in the community for the past few years, talking about health disparities and providing education around different health disparities, including things like HIV and lack of health insurance. And to me, diabetes is something that's more personal. I've watched family members and numerous aunts and uncles, cousins be affected by the disease, being obese and not understanding how to combat it, not understanding how to reverse the effects that the food that they're intaking has on them. And now my mother is diabetic and my brother is diabetic, and so it's even more closer to home for me. And for me, in doing some research, and right now I'm working on my bachelor's in health ed, and this has been one of my primary focuses is obesity and diabetes in the Native community. Just like I said, how we've been removed from a lot of our traditional practices and how it's affected our daily lives as far as exercise, it also affects our daily lives as far as the food that we consume. We were taken from our original lands and we were put onto reservations. We were removed from those things that sustained us. We were removed from traditional ways of growing food like zucchini and corn and squash and those things that were healthy for us at one time. And we are a people of survival. We've always been. And when we were given commodities all those decades ago, we learned to live with those things. We learned to adapt with those things. Little did we know how the effects that it was going to have on our health in the future. We were given things like, white flour, lard, canned foods with high sodium, and we made do. Just like Phyllis said, fried bread wasn't traditional to us, but over the decades it became something that was tradition because we used it to sustain ourselves. And Phyllis was telling me on the way over here how she remembers when they would go out in the beginning of the month with their income that they would get, and they would buy foods to last them through the month. And once those other foods ran out, like the potatoes and the rice and whatever else they were purchasing, they made do with things like flour and lard. Her grandmother would make piles and piles of fried bread, and I know my family did it. I know probably many of your families did it too. And those things that are incredibly unhealthy for us, but we had to make a way to survive, and we still do that today. Many of our people on the reservations and in the urban areas live in poverty. You know, we have one of the highest rates of poverty around, and we make do with what we can. Sometimes we might have $10 to feed our family, $5 to feed our family, and so we go where things are most accessible to us. You know, I remember growing up when my mom took us to McDonald's all the time because it was inexpensive and she could feed us. But what we fail to do is we fail to educate our people on how they can take that $5 and that $10 and take it to a local farmer's market, or or even, you know, grow your own crops or grow your own foods in a place where that's accessible. A lot of our patients that I see come through our health center get educated on a level that's just Western medicine, and they get educated and they tell them, you know, exercise, eat these good foods, but they leave out those aspects that we're talking about now, is how we've been removed from those traditional things, that's traditional ways of life, how we've been affected through colonization and things like that, and they don't bring it up. And so what we're going to do now is we are going to show you guys a film called Bad Sugar, and it shows how the things that I'm talking about now have affected these tribes as far as obesity and diabetes, and they also talk about how our removal from traditional practices has had a huge effect on our health and with diabetes and obesity. So we're gonna turn the lights down and we're gonna watch this film, and then we'll have a little more discussion afterwards. Can someone turn the lights down?
Diet and exercise, drugs and medical care. These are what we usually associate with health. But what we don't think about are structures. Not just physical structures, but economic, political, and social structures. They may be hard to see, yet they can be powerful determinants of our health.
Doing a series of photos from a book. I never get tired of taking pictures of the desert.
Terrell Dew Johnson is a member of the Tohono O'odham American Indian tribe. Terrell is an artist and an activist on the reservation, south of Phoenix, Arizona.
I was Hopi. What'd you guys do?
For the last 40 years, the tribe has suffered the highest rate of type 2 diabetes in the world. Half of Tohono O'odham adults have type 2 diabetes.
She died.
More than 7 times the national average. Rates for children are climbing rapidly.
Are you staying with Grandma? Are you go with them? You can go to the party. You can go swim. I'll see you later. Bye, you guys.
For hundreds of years, the Otham lived self-sufficiently on tepary beans, cholla buds, local game, crops irrigated by rain and groundwater. Their way of life kept them healthy. Today, that has changed.
Danny, I was just asking people when I was taking pictures of them how diabetes affects them, if it does affect them, what their thoughts are about that.
I think some people, they get kind of depressed. Somebody has stated, well, my mom, my sister has diabetes, so I'll probably get it anyway. So that kind of, that attitude that you're eventually going to get it, you know.
A lot of people in my family and around me had diabetes, and somehow I always thought, well, okay, that's just part of growing up. But they never said they had diabetes. They've always said, I just have bad sugar. I've actually had family members die on the operating table during the process of an amputation.
He lost his leg.
Oh, he did?
A couple of weeks ago, yeah.
Oh, no.
He was at the elders conference and was in a wheelchair.
A lot of people still don't know.
Further north is the Gila River Reservation, home to the Pima.
We're the same O'odham tribe, it's just that they're desert people. We just don't know. And we're Akimar O'odham, which we live by the river. See where those little mountains are at? The river is just on the south, probably at the base of that mountain there. And
Henrietta Lopez works with the Pima Maricopa Irrigation Project.
at that point there, they diverted out of the river and into a canal like this, okay? This is what we call the Pima Canal, you know, connecting to the river.
Her Pima ancestors were master water engineers. Over the centuries, they transformed the desert into farmland in the Gila River Basin.
Living along the river meant our life. It was a part of us. Having the river flowing through our community meant having natural vegetation growing along the river, the willow, the mesquite, the cottonwood trees. I don't believe that really the non-Indian world understands how we're tied to the water, but water is our life.
Those were healthier times for the Pima. But within 2 short generations, they, like the Tohono O'odham, began dying from type 2 diabetes.
Most of our records are computerized.
For years, the medical community believed Pima susceptibility to diabetes was an anomaly, that something in their biology was unique.
These are files that have been collected from our longitudinal study.
The National Institutes of Health collected hundreds of thousands of Pima blood samples, tissue biopsies, and medical histories.
Our collection of EKGs, these are...
Dr. Peter Bennett has devoted most of his professional life to studying diabetes among the Pima.
Running the lipid panels on the...
After 40 years, $200 million worth of research has increased our understanding of the biochemistry of diabetes. But neither the cause nor a cure has been discovered, and rates among the Pima continue to rise. Like many researchers, Bennett now turns his attention to genes for answers.
So the genetics of diabetes has turned out to be really quite complicated. It appears that there are not just 1 or even 2 genes involved in the predisposition. In fact, today we still don't know what combinations of gene abnormalities really lead to very high risk of the disease.
But research has shown that whatever genes might increase the risk of diabetes are in fact found the world over, not just among the Pima. And whether they have the genes or not, some populations do have a higher incidence of disease.
They're really very dramatic figures. These are not our own data, but from a paper a couple of years ago.
Pacific Islanders, African Americans, Aboriginal peoples in Australia, all suffer from type 2 diabetes at rates double or triple the national averages.
They have totally different histories. They're all different populations, and yet they all have the same manifestation. What's going on? What's the common denominator? And in every case, we're talking about people who have been dispossessed of their land and of their history. They haven't been able to recreate it. In all these far-flung parts of the world, this social circumstance of being ripped from roots ends up with the same manifestation of disease.
But this used to be where my sister and I and all the kids slept in, and the room next door was a 2-bedroom place, you know.
For the Tohono O'odham and many others across the globe, land, culture, and work vanished in the last century.
No indoor plumbing. We used to take our showers, cook, and clean, and this was the only source of water.
Today, half the Pima and the Tohono O'odham live below the poverty line. This condition is the real risk factor for diabetes, for Dr. Donald Warren.
Well, I went into a modern medical training kind of naively, thinking that I was going to make an impact on Indian health as a primary care physician.
Warren has treated Native American tribes in Arizona for years. He's also a health policy consultant from a family of Lakota traditional healers.
And in truth, you can have an impact on individuals' lives and their health care, and that's very significant and meaningful. But the health problems occur long before people get to the clinic or to the hospital.
When Dr. Warren's patients have type 2 diabetes, their bodies make the insulin needed to convert glucose or blood sugar into energy. But the insulin isn't used efficiently. Glucose then builds up in their bloodstream and can choke off small blood vessels, leading to blindness, kidney failure, amputation. Diets high in sugar, fat, and carbohydrates can elevate glucose levels, but something else increases those levels as well.
There is a direct biochemical connection between living in poverty and the stress that people are under and blood sugar control. When we look at measures of stress, we look at different types of hormones like cortisol or epinephrine, which is adrenaline. All of those chemicals increase blood sugar.
And when stress hormones remain high, they continue to trigger the production of glucose. Glucose builds up in the bloodstream, leading to diabetes. Diabetes in America has reached epidemic proportions. We spend over $132 billion a year to treat it. Obesity is a risk factor, and a third of us are obese. But the other critical risk factor is low income. Americans in the lowest income brackets are at least twice as likely as those in the highest to become diabetic. Dr. Warren might like to prescribe affluence, but instead he prescribes a change of diet, more exercise, and if this fails, medication and insulin injections.
It's a picture of my sister. She has to take 2 shots, the syringes. She has to fill them up to the max, and she takes them on both sides of her belly. And the doctor said that her kidneys will go, but she told me that with a smile, I'm all right for now, she said, which really bummed me out. I was sad. I'm a diabetic. I found out in '96, and so they gave me some pills, and boom. And I was stamped and approved and put on that list of diabetics in the Native community.
The genocide of Native American peoples may be a familiar story, but its unfolding varied from tribe to tribe and place to place. To understand its continuing impact on the health of the Pima today, we need not look far beyond one series of events.
There's a direct connection between the diversion of water in the upper Gila River and the health status and economic status of Pimas and Maricopas. In the 1890s, water simply stopped coming down the Gila River.
Upstream, water from the Gila was diverted by dams and water projects, giving white settlers, farmers, ranchers, and mining interests the water they needed.
And we were dependent upon that water to grow crops, to provide for ourselves.
Not even the 1908 Supreme Court decision upholding water rights for all Native Americans could protect the Pima. The Coolidge Dam. In 1930, one of the largest in the world. Its promise to provide water for everyone, this time including the Pima. Former President Calvin Coolidge celebrated its opening with politicians and businessmen. They dined on china, crystal, and linen. The Pima ate bagged lunches on makeshift tables. Coolidge passed the peace pipe, but in the end, the Pima got little of the water. Again.
We were practically without water for almost an entire century. We are among the poorest people in the United States of America, as are Indians who live in other reservations and still are in that situation. Unable to grow crops, unable to get out and work in the fields, unable to develop economically because of the lack of water for almost 100 years was just, that's an absolute shame as far as this country is concerned, as far as the state of Arizona is concerned.
What is a metaphor for the rest of the country to try to think about in terms of damming the rivers? It would be like saying to this entire country, okay, survive now without money. And how would you do that? How would you change your entire economy? How would you change your entire culture? How would you change your entire lifestyle? And would you be successful? Would people die?
And the Pima did die, but they died from starvation, not from diabetes. A survey conducted in 1902 found only one case of diabetes among the Pima. But within 30 years of building the Coolidge Dam, there were more than 500.
If we had not dammed the rivers back in the 1920s and 1930s, we wouldn't be able to have this lifestyle that we enjoy in Arizona with swimming pools and golf courses and artificial lakes. And with this lifestyle, we're really living outside the laws of nature. And what people, I think, generally speaking, don't realize is that all of the prosperity of Phoenix and the prosperity of this entire state was built on the backs of the health of the local tribes.
Pimas lived a very, very difficult life at the bottom of the economic scale. We had almost no recourse except to become dependent upon governmental benefits.
Shortly after the dams were built, the U.S. military began distributing free commodity foods to Native Americans.
And it definitely brought us through the hard times. There's a commodities building where they host the commodity food. This is where people used to come get their cheese, their beans, and their grape juice and stuff. There used to be just rows and rows and rows and rows of those.
But this surplus food, white flour, cheese, refined sugar, lard, canned foods, is a diabetic's nightmare, as it was for Terrell's neighbor.
They asked her how many people were in her household, and she said about 5. And the guy said, well, you can get 5 boxes of food. And there was chips and candy and canned food. And I thought, well, that's an idea. There's a nice idea about having food, but it's just the wrong kind of food. And I asked her, I said, so what kind of, like, were there any kind of normal food? She goes, well, there were cans of gravy.
It was not until 1996 that fresh produce was offered in the program, and authentic traditional foods are still not included.
When we think of traditional American Indian food, for example, fry bread is one of the things that comes to mind. Well, in truth, tribes did not have fried bread historically. The roots of fry bread are in the commodity food program. And fry bread is essentially trying to do the best that you can with your commodities, flour, lard, and vegetable shortening. Over generations, when people grow up with that, it becomes a part of the culture. It becomes acculturated into the community that is part of the norm.
There is only one small market on the 581 square mile Gila River Reservation with a small produce section. A regular supermarket is an hour's round-trip drive.
If you're in an impoverished community and you don't have healthy choices for food and you don't have safe places to exercise, you're tremendously disempowered when it comes to a disease like diabetes. And that has nothing to do with how much medication is in the pharmacy. It has everything to do with social determinants of health, which include that sense of control, that sense of self-empowerment that is important to all of us, whether we're Native or non-Native. It has an impact on self-identity, and it has an impact on one's sense of hope for the future.
Some of our people have just given up. People lost their identity when we lost our water. Within our community, we have elders that have gone. I always have that in the back of my mind, that those people will never see the water. When I leave the reservation and I see those same people that live out there and use that water, how they've benefited from our loss. They've benefited so much for so many years.
Decisions to benefit some are made every day. They create winners and losers in wealth and in health. In upscale cities like Scottsdale, Arizona, the diabetes rate is only around 5%. In less affluent towns like Bullhead City, the rate is closer to 11%. And on some poor Native American reservations, it continues to be 50%. This is a disease pattern repeated across the country, across the world, and not just for diabetes. Whether you are poor or wealthy or in between, is a powerful predictor of how healthy your life will be.
So Margaret, how long have you been a diabetic?
Oh gosh, about 36 years or something like that. Maybe even close to 40. I'm losing my eyesight, in that my left eye is worse than my right eye.
Really?
From diabetes.
Margaret Acosta is a respected Tohono O'odham elder and craftsperson.
I have.
She's one of Terrell's teachers.
In the past 3 weeks, I've been a little bit more serious, taking my sugar count as often as I should.
It's really, really hard.
Managing diabetes is demanding. Taking blood sugar counts 4 times a day, monitoring diet, staying productive and engaged.
So Margaret, do you think diabetes will get you at the end?
I know. I know, so.
How does that make you feel?
Well, I keep telling everybody I'm going to live till I'm 100, and I am going to live till I'm 100. I tell that to diabetes every day. You're not going to get me yet.
Studies confirm that hopefulness helps to manage diabetes. But for the O'odham, hopefulness has been in short supply, up to now.
I think I got my shot.
We have 100 years of neglect and poverty to make up for it. We have to put in water delivery system. We have to put in paved roads. We have to put in the hospitals and schools. We're a long ways behind most other segments of American society, both in Arizona and nationally.
Regaining water is a high priority. The Pima have been fighting for their water rights for centuries, facing opposition by non-tribal economic interests and skepticism and resistance at high political levels.
It was difficult, and there was underlying all this was, I believe, a lot of not racial hostility, but a lot of feelings about tribes that we didn't deserve the water, we didn't deserve to be in these negotiations, we didn't have a good, strong, valid claim for water.
By the early 1980s, new players entered the fray. Citrus growers, energy producers from several states, resort developers, all joined the scramble for liquid gold. Rod Lewis spent several decades on the Pima legal team.
We have sat down with each one of those parties, spent literally thousands of hours right here in this room working on deals to settle our differences between us. All of that effort led to the Arizona Water Rights Settlement Act of 2004.
After 100 years, water is flowing down the Gila River again. The Water Rights Act provides the Pima the water and resources needed to rebuild their farms, but it also promises something more.
It is not about economic gain. It is about rebuilding our community. It has never been about personal gain. It is about the return of our culture. I truly believe the warm, gentle winds of heaven are once again blowing. On the Akmalotham and the Peaposh. God bless you all. God bless the Gila River.
This is durum wheat. We contract durum wheat this year with Arizona Grain. Desert durum wheat is what we grow here. Basically, it's for the pasta manufacturers. A lot of it goes to Italy for the making of pasta. Most of the time we get a better contract for that than other varieties.
The allotment that you're in is in section 12, okay? And this is Gilbert Road right
The tribe and some individual members are now planning to expand their farming. It's been nearly 20 years since Tony Antone cultivated his own allotment.
So does that kind of make it clearer?
A lot.
A lot better than
Yeah,
how,
than I-
you know, just trying to explain it over the phone? And,
Yeah. That way I won't argue with you next time.
In truth, we have more control over the problems like diabetes than we realize. We can't think of diabetes and colonization just simply from the role of the victim. The disease patterns like diabetes occur over many years, so we're not going to see a dramatic change overnight. But I think in the long run, as we see more success in economic and workforce development, we're going to see improvements in healthcare systems, education systems, and in social policy. We have to take more control over our own community.
Things like diabetes get our attention, but by focusing on diabetes, you miss the underlying phenomena, and that's really the importance.
I feel like taking pictures of the graveyard.
If we took everyone at risk of disease and cured them so that they were no longer at risk, it would do virtually nothing to solve our problem, because new people would continue to enter the at-risk population at an unaffected rate forever.
This is my aunt. She died of complications of diabetes.
The issue is we're not paying enough attention to prevention. Overwhelmingly, funds are spent on fixing people who are already sick. We have to change that formula.
And here's my grandpa. He died of diabetes. He was a medicine man. He was a cowboy. He was in the Navy. I don't want to die of this, you know. I don't want to die either with one leg or two legs missing. I still see hope. I don't have to die of diabetes. You know, I'll die of some natural cause or something.
anyone have any immediate thoughts or questions about the film that we just showed? I think Tony said he was working on getting some of those, so maybe ask Tony when he can get a free moment. The Richard Oakes Day on Friday, yeah.
What I wanted to say was good film. I appreciate it. And one of the most important things I think that I noticed is the fact that there's so much that we can do. Actually, the last line was we have more to do about it than we think we do. In other words, more ways of us to control that than we think we do. We think someone else always is going to help us out and always going to make it okay for us. But reality is that it's our responsibility. And just a real small example, like for example, I'm a student here at City College, you know, and one of my classes is yoga in the mornings, you know. I've never done yoga. I mean, I'm an old guy already, you know. I never thought it was for me. I mean, in fact, I was sure it wasn't for me. The way it was presented, the way it looked, the way it was not for me, you know. What do I got to do with that kind of stuff? But what I found out in the past semester is just about breathing, you know, breathing. If everybody where you're at, just take a breath and turn your head to the right, like that. Exhale, now take another breath and turn it to the center. Now to the left. Now back to the center. We just did yoga. And that little piece right there, believe me, it helps us focus, helps us center, helps us think so much. And another thing, myself, I spend a lot of time on the computer, and every single time, I'm talking about every time I think about it, I'm like this. Every time. And then I was straighten up, you know. But every single time that I think about it, I'm like this. I said, oh, shoot, I got to straighten up. And real simple, they said, hey, you got a heart in there, you got lungs in there, you got diaphragm in there, they need to breathe. I said, whoa, no kidding. Simple as that. So in other words, a lot of times we're away from things that are so simple to us only because we think or it appears that it's not for us. You know, but health and breathing is for everybody, you know. So I think there's a lot of stuff that we need to take care of, and I call that taking responsibility a little bit. So I want to share that a little bit. So with diabetes, we need to take responsibility. And don't say my diabetes. No, it's not mine, you know.
Thank you.
They give an incentive. They give you like little coupons that you can. Is this working?
Yeah, that's for the website.
Well, they give you these little incentives, you know, like they give you dollar store items that, you know, the people get these coupons and get so they can go to these classes, and you get your, you know, blood pressure, and you get your glucose read. And what I really noticed about it was that they were trying to show you how to read the packages, but they were telling you about incredibly salty, processed foods. Eat this instead of this. And I was, you know, trying to intervene, telling them, well, you know, the whole idea, the concept is to get them not to eat any of that, to eliminate that from the diet, because that's what's giving them the problem. They're teaching you that you can eat this much with this sort of carb instead of eating a sugary carb, and they're all carbs. It's all processed, lousy food, and they're telling them it's okay to eat it. So eventually I had to get up and leave because everything I said contradicted what she said. But, you know, this is what they're teaching the people, and they put everybody's statistics, you know, blood pressures up there. And there was quite a few people were really high, you know, and they're teaching them to eat this way, and it's wrong. Yeah, that's all I had to say about it.
So it sounds like they were teaching them a little bit of harm reduction, like eat something less bad for you, right?
No, I decided not to.
You know, Phyllis and I were talking on the way up here about how they mentioned in the video how, you know, we've lost some of that respect that we've had for food before, that our ancestors have had for food. Some of the ways that we were taught was that, the meals that we prepared daily, you made them by hand and you prayed. You prayed over those meals as you made them. Now we turn to going to the grocery store and buying prepackaged foods that we have to read the labels for, that we have to look at and see how much sodium, see how much fat, see how much carbohydrates, see how much of those things are in there. And some of the times, the people that are reading them might not understand what those packages actually mean, what those nutrition facts actually mean. And when we are to a place where we can return to making our own foods the way that our parents and our grandparents were taught, and the way that, we become too lazy to do, in a sense, that when we can return to those things, then we know what we're putting in our body. We know those things, the vegetables, the fresh fruits and vegetables that our doctors are telling us to eat all the time. We know that what we're putting in our bodies when we can return to a time or a place where we can do that.
Hi, I'm Bernadette, and I just want to add on also that we do have a lot of that we can, in our hands. We have to become urban gardeners. We have to grow our food, even if it's in pots, and grow our medicine, even if it's in a pot outside our door. We have to learn what can grow in your area where you live, because that's what's going to save us. If we start growing our own food, our own medicine, even if it's just one or two things. But we're so lucky to live here because we can grow year-round. We can grow year-round in this area, and there's a whole movement out there of urban gardeners. And we've got to become them too, because think about what our grandparents and their parents did. They grew the food. We've got to go back to that, know the sources of our food, and grow it. And pray over it. That's another thing that's really, really important. Bless that food and help it to, I pray over the water. I always say, heal me, heal us.
Thank you.
And by growing our own food for ourselves, we are asserting our political sovereignty. And we got to remember that farming and planting and all that teaches you to observe and value the natural forces that all go into that food. And farming also teaches community and family responsibility. So there's a whole lot mixed in there that we forget about our foods, that how our, grandmas and grandpas did before. And we need to start putting into the heads of the youth the importance of food and of it going and being thankful that, food can grow. So, and like right now in our community, we do different activities with our youth. And over the summer, we actually gathered all our kids, and we told them, we said, they come into the center with different snacks and stuff. So we collected all the packaging of the stuff, and we had to make a board like this. So we had got a big old can of lard and a big old can of sugar, and we had them read behind each of the nutritional facts of all the fat and all that stuff, and we had them converted into, physically, so they could physically see how much lard and fat that they're putting in each time they eat one of these items. And I know for me, it affected me when I saw this, bag of fat that's in the potato chips. And after that, it was like, the kids were more conscious about what they were eating, and we were more conscious about all the snacks and stuff, because this is what all our youth is eating. They're used to eating all of this, and we have different programs, different just things to make the youth more aware that, food is actually sacred, and the whole process, of getting food, making food, all of that, we need to tell our youth and, let them know that it's, just have more respect for our food and what we put inside our bodies.
Well, I was always told when you work with the earth, work with the Creator. And that's a beautiful thing to happen. You're at peace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Did you have a question?
Actually, I think, we got to look at what we're talking about. We got cans of Coke, bread, sweet bread in the back. What are we talking about then?
Mm-hmm. And if you just look at
this
to
ourselves, there's one thing I wanted to say. We gotta, look at what we all have eaten traditionally, and say how can we help each other? Because a good thing for diabetes is cactuses. I come from a cactus-eating people. That is really good for diabetes. How come we're not looking at how our foods can help each other out?
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even when I just look at this table when I first came in and I see the stage and this and then the water and then I see this, it just, it doesn't even look right. So like after we can, so, even just seeing it, it doesn't look right. If you were to see squash and corn and all that over there, it'll look really nice. And so that's what I noticed that too over there. I was like, they got soda and water. We need to just be water, no soda.
I'm a big advocate for education and using the knowledge that we have. We're going to walk into a grocery store every day and we're going to see cans of Coke and we're going to see chips and sodas and candies on the shelves, but it's a matter of how we use our own education, our own knowledge to decide what we're going to pick up off of those shelves. So, I appreciate that you guys pointed it out and that, sometimes it's a matter of money, like they talked about on the films, right? What can we provide with what we have? Sometimes that's where the factors play in, but we also have to utilize the knowledge and education that we have within ourselves to make those educated choices and make those choices that are going to affect our health later in life. And teaching our children about these things, educating them at a young age so they can use the knowledge that they have. Like, for example, Phyllis's daughter is really active in the community. She dances, and she's gonna understand that that's gonna be a part of her life that she has to work towards being agile for. She's going to have to watch what she eats. She's going to have to exercise. She's going to have to incorporate those things in her daily life so that she can be able to do that. She has the stamina and the dexterity to do that. And Phyllis teaches her, with her programs that she works with like this, starting at the youngest ages makes a difference. Yeah. Any other questions or, oh yeah.
In the diabetes program, because I know in Portland, Oregon, I belong to a group. I'm part of the program, and then we have a lady by the name of Judy Bluehorse, and she's our herbalist there. And what she does is that they do wild pickings on the seasonal basis, and then they do a cooking class with the clients there. And if they don't have those resources or the foods, they find somebody that has it, like the nearest tribe, to bring roots over from Warm Springs or from Yakima, and then she puts that into her diabetes curriculum. Also, she allows us as clients to bring our families support groups. She says we need support groups because without our support group, we're more likely to fall off that wagon, go back to our bad ways of eating. So what I implemented is that if like I tell the kids, if I have to suffer, you all got to suffer. So what I did is that I went into the cupboards and I threw everything that was processed and canned out of the house. And I started putting in, fresh fruit, like low-fat milks, things like that into the house. And I noticed that within 2 months, I dropped 10 pounds. Also did, my daughter and my boyfriend, we dropped weight. And that was because of choice. Before I even went to the store, I knew what I was going to get. And that was part of the program. They did, and it lasted for about 5 months, the program. But like the elder lady said before me, those that came got an incentives, like tokens to farmers market, or they got an incentive like a gift card to one of the stores, like New Seasons. At the end of our program, everybody gets a pair of walking shoes from Nike. And Nike they do have a native networking organization, and they will donate special shoes for those that are diabetic that have, problems with their feet. I mean, I'm pre-diabetes, but I'm already having feet problem. But that's to get them start participating in these classes and to start moving, like walking. So, looking at those resources out there. Have you guys done that before?
Yeah, our health center has a fitness and nutrition department that does diabetes prevention. And one of the things that they do, us being in an urban area, is that they have cooking classes where they take a very small budget, meals under $5 or meals under $10, and they teach our community members where to go, where to buy these foods, how to look for these foods, how to purchase them, and how to prepare meals with them. So they do offer those kinds of things. I don't think that they have looked into any kind of trading mechanism, though. That might be something very interesting for us to look into. And I do provide incentives for our clients for coming to different events, cooking classes, and for meeting their goals. So meeting goals for the levels of their blood sugar, their counts that they're keeping every day. So meeting for clients that are taking their blood sugars on time and at the right amounts every day. So they do provide incentives for those things. So motivating clients to be aware of their health and then getting rewarded for paying extra attention to it. Yeah. Yes.
I wanted to say something about what you're talking about, in our area, from the Navajo Nation. The problem was, like buying fresh fruits and things that have nutrition, is still a problem for our people because a lot of our people don't have electricity. And you gotta have a refrigerator, and if they're getting paid once a month, I think the only time they get anything that's nutrition is probably like 1 week out of the whole month. That's just one. Another one is when you go to the Indian Health Service clinic, you sit there for hours. A lot of our people don't even eat breakfast because they have an appointment at 8 or 9, and they sit there for 4 hours while the staff, go to lunch, they come back. You're sitting there in the waiting room. You don't even want to leave because if you left the waiting room and your name is called, they skip you. So I've been, writing letters, complaining and saying that a lot of parents bring their children for appointments and the children don't even have anything to eat. And all they have in the hall is a vending machine full of potato chips, sodas, candies. So my complaint was, you have a diabetes program here down the hall. You're talking to the people about diabetes and look what you have in your machine. If you want people to stay here, wait for hours, you should bring them some kind of healthy snack, especially for the elders. They'll be sitting there in the chair asleep, waiting to be called. So, they made some slight changes, but, overall, we still need a lot of education coming from the young people because a lot of our young people are affected by this diabetes. It's not just the tribe in Arizona, it's also, in our area too. I think it's, we're dealing with it nationwide because of the way we eat, the way we, buy food. And like I said, for a lot of people in my area, they only get their payment once a month and the rest of the time they're on commodity, which is, food that aren't even that great. And a lot of people don't even like to, eat the food that are given to them. And what they receive, like if it's a luncheon meat, it has a lot of salt. And, other things like that. So I just wanted to mention that too. Thank you.
I think you're doing the right thing by speaking up. It's when people don't speak up that those things and those processes that are in place don't get changed. It takes people to speak up, and it takes people to advocate together to get those things addressed. Definitely.
I have a lot of relatives that have been chopped up and died. Lost a lot of relatives due to diabetes. And I went through the diabetes prevention program in San Jose because my doctor said, you're pre-diabetic, we want to put you on some medicine. I says, well, let me see if I can change my diet, do some exercise. So I started doing that and eating oatmeal with instead of putting a bunch of sugar on it, I put a little bit of raisins. I always put some cinnamon and I eat it like that and it's good. So I just did that change and I started taking krill oil. Krill, it's like in the ocean and just doing that and drinking lots of water. And stop eating those burritos off the Roach Coach every day. And then it brought me down. So my doctor said, you don't need to take that, do that anymore. But it also helped with the people at the Diabetes Prevention Center taught me how to eat a little more healthier. And they gave me a book that shows all of the calories, the fat, and the carbs that are in the food that you eat, in every, fast food restaurant, everything that you eat. So that really helped out a lot. And I want to live. I want to live a long time. I want to be around enjoy this planet and see some good positive changes coming about. So I appreciate what you're doing here and seeing all of the fats and stuff. Educating people, I think, is a good thing, but also trying to stay away from that those fattening stuff that's so good. It's got to have the willpower,
Moderation.
Thank you.
That's key. You said something that I just want to touch on really quick. That when you went into your doctor and you were pre-diabetic, you were diagnosed being pre-diabetic, that your doctor was quick to want to prescribe you medications, and that happens a lot. Right. Well, they look at blood sugar levels and things like that. They look at, family history, blood sugar levels, and they determine that somebody's pre-diabetic, and they're quick to prescribe medications. They're quick. The Western medicine, they want to give you medicine for everything. They want to give you a pill for everything. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And that's where education and self-empowerment comes into play. You teach our young children about these things, and don't leave out any of the details. Don't leave out any of the stuff that you think is negative, because it can be turned into a positive. You educate our young children about that. There's ways to treat your health, and there's ways to negate those negative effects that the food's having on our lives before you turn to Western medicine, before you turn to taking a pill every day to control your insulin. If your doctor would have and himself just said, change the way you eat, let's try this first, instead of being quick to hand you a prescription for for insulin receptor medication, then maybe that would make a difference in a lot of people's lives. Because after that point, like the film said, a lot of people go to a place where they just accept the fact that they're going to become diabetic. They kind of give up hope, and it becomes a norm in our society that I'm going to get diabetes one day, and people don't work as hard as they can to prevent it.
Yeah, my name is Martin, and I grew up here on the West Coast. And 60 years ago, when I was just a young boy, I had my first experience, first-hand experience of what diabetes does, in seeing my grandfather, who was 85 and was a graduate of Carlisle at the same time Jim Thorpe was 100 years ago. And he had no feet. And as a young boy, I'm looking at my grandfather for the first time, because he was from Colorado. I grew up on the West Coast here, Southern Cal. And I couldn't imagine that, as a little kid. But where I lived in the middle of millions of fruit-bearing trees. The whole valley was nothing but citrus and grapes and vegetables. So I grew up in paradise, not knowing. We were poverty. We were the poorest people around, but we were in paradise. And when we were kids, we didn't think about food because it was everywhere. And I think that's, the warfare that goes on. They put us in little POW camps and they feed us poison. And it's warfare. It's chemical warfare. We're at war. When I was 28, I was growing 4 million pounds of food, myself with 40 men in Southern California. So it's totally doable, but we have to fight the war. I've been to all the reservations almost on this whole west side of the United States, and I see land and I see water, but I don't see no food. We know how to grow food. It's part of our tradition. It's part of our life. It's a part of us. That's that connection to the earth. You put seeds in the ground, you put water on it, and you grow food. And all of us, each one of us, I bet you in this room, because we're a privileged class here. And we're privileged just to be here. We're privileged, and I thank the Creator that we are here and we can discuss these things. But as leaders, we have to go to war. I've been at a DQ for 7 years now. I first went there 20 years ago. And as soon as we would put seed in the ground and start to grow food, all hell broke loose. We're at war. This government does not want us to get well. It does not want us to heal. And it's simple. Diabetes is totally preventable. I don't have it, and I almost died when I was 18 from stress. I grew up in a time when the only good one was a dead one. That's stress. Where do you go from there as a human being, as a man? Where do you go from the only good Indian is a dead Indian? And that was real. And that was propaganda, and that was warfare. And I almost died from that stress. I was, I beat up on national champions in wrestling. I had a wrestling scholarship to the University of Arizona. I had all of these things going for me, but I was dying inside from stress, the stress of life, the stress of having you go to a college, a university, and you have no money, you're barely making it. You're starving your way through. There's a war on, and they're gonna draft you over to go to some foreign land and kill people over there, like you were killed, like your own family was killed over here. And you had all these things to deal with. So that stress is important. The other thing I think that needs mentioning is the bombing. I didn't realize, that the most bombed nation in the world was the Western Shoshones. And 2 years ago, they made me aware of that. And depleted uranium has come across and done things to us that we don't even know. We haven't even made the connection between depleted uranium and the contamination at that level that it needs to be acknowledged and need to be seen, because diabetes and depleted uranium, are connected. It tears up the mitochondria in our very cells. It breaks it down in the deepest parts of the way. So we have to go to war back in terms of education, and I appreciate what you're doing to educate everyone about these things. But the solutions are simple. We did it for thousands of years. We didn't have diabetes, and there's no reason we should have it now, except that we got to get out there and start growing food. I know how to do that. I was trying to do it every time you try, it's just like, I shot the sheriff. Sometimes you feel like shooting the sheriff. Because believe me, the sheriff came out there. We had 50 students out there, and 50 sheriffs came out there with airplanes and all kinds of things to stop us from growing food and doing what we all should be doing and we all need to be doing. We got to fight back. We can't just, sit there and eat junk food. I do it myself. I eat all those foods. I'm just as vulnerable as anybody. But at one time, I was a vegetarian. And for 5 years, I didn't eat any meat. And I realized I learned a lot because I had a near-death experience when I was in my teens from living crazy like so many of us have done. But there is a solution, and I think that we should work on that solution of just simply growing food and eating it ourselves.
Well, with that said, any other questions? I definitely agree that we have to take it into our own hands. We have the solutions to many of our health disparities at our fingertips. We have the knowledge, and we are a privileged group that sit here. So taking that information back to our community members and back to our younger generations and instilling it in them and educating them, empowering them, and rising up with them.
I just wanted to say, I don't know what anybody thinks of this, but I really am angry because in the 70s, my mother was treated for diabetes for 5 years, and then on the Colville Reservation, Indian Health Service. And then they told her, oh, Lucy, by the way, you don't have diabetes. So they quit giving her whatever medication they were giving her. And then my best friend told me, Yvonne, they've been treating me for diabetes for 5 years, and then they tell me now I don't have it. Now they tell me I have lupus. Well, my mother lived to be 82, and she died of congestive heart failure. And my best friend died. She had a bubble on her heart, and it burst. So I repeat, the federal government is our enemy, and how many tests have they done on us and treated us as guinea pigs? What are they doing? They have that genome study. I was going to ask Tony about that. Maybe somebody can address that, where they wanted to study the genes of people. of our people to find out the secrets of our longevity or something like that, and give all this study to all the scientists in the world so they can look at it in the pool. What's going on? I mean, I'm very suspect. I go to the doctor after 8 years after returning from San Francisco after working with Tony here, and the doctor said, well, you haven't been here for 8 years, as if it was a crime. I said, well, I haven't been sick. And then he's always trying to tell me, well, quit smoking. I said, you're coughing more than me. I didn't come in here for that. You know, I mean, I fight them. I mean, so what if I'm healthy? I mean, they want me to be sick. They try to give me these medicines, and then I hear about what do they call that? The side effects of them, so I put them away. You can heal yourself. You know, that my sister does that. My daughter does that. My niece heals other people. We have the power inside, people. We can heal. I'm praying for each one of you in my heart. Each one of you, I'm listening. I'm listening to it. We can do it.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, thank you guys for having us here. And thank you for all the comments and the positive feedback.
Thank you, Phyllis and Shirley. I'd like to propose, and I hope having your support because of this presentation on health and obesity and diabetes, that we support the efforts to bring attention to the seriousness of diabetes and obesity by supporting the Walk Across America with Dennis Banks and others, June San, and the walk begins on February the 14th. So I don't think there's any disagreement, okay, with that. So we'll include that question real quick. And I just got word from security that we have to be leaving this by 5 o'clock. So we're going to cut it short and clean up what we can and be out of the room by 5. And before that, I'd like to have a blanket dance for some of the brothers, the singers. Okay, so we're gonna, if we have a blanket, we can put it out here, and then we're gonna do a song while we're cleaning up, and people want to leave some money. Yeah. Okay. Okay, any other questions? All right, so let's start cleaning up, and tomorrow, it's going to be a little crazy tomorrow. We'll be here from 9:30 until 11:45, and then we'll have to go upstairs to room 201 for 2 hours, so that'll be during the lunch, and then we'll come back here. And last year and the year before, we've been meeting at the Baha'i, and you know, at the end of the day, we have a bill of about $2,000, you know, at the end of the week, and that's what I'm trying to avoid is the cost. That's why we got this place, and it's free. All right, so I hope you can appreciate that and tolerate this moving around. Okay, so yeah.
My name is Chris Francisco. I'm the Northern Route Coordinator for the Longest Walk, and I have cards if you guys want to check out our Facebook and get more information on the Longest Walk 3. Thank you.
All right, yeah, I like the card. I like the card. All right, so let's start cleaning up, and we'll close up with a prayer before we leave here at 5 o'clock, okay? All right, you guys, take it away. Do a little blanket donation here for the bros. Help them out.
and you've been listening to the American Indian Movement West Conference in San Francisco, and we're going to phase out of here. Thank you for listening. We'll be back tomorrow sometime around 9:30, 10 o'clock.